Welcome, dear students. In this session, I will talk about English language in the schools during the 14th century. And I hope and expect that by the end of this session, you will be able to understand about the rise of English in the schools and in the education system of the Middle English period, especially during the 14th century. Well, tracing the history back, what I would say is that from a time shortly after the conquest, French had replaced English as a language of the schools. French was being used as a language in the classroom. It was used as a language of instruction. It was used as a language of expression in the formal situations of the domain of school. I would share that a statement of Ronalds Statement in the 14th century shows that in his day, the use of French in the schools was quite general. It was quite common. And at the end of the first book of his Polychronicon, that was written in 1327, and that is known as a universal history, which is circulated as widely known history, he attributes the corruption of English language to various reasons, and one of the reasons that he gives was the use of French language very frequently and throughout in the education system of England. It was after 1349 English began to be used in the schools, and it was by 1385 that the practice became more general. So, the shift took place from somewhere between 1349 to 1385. Now, we need to think of the reasons. Why it was so? What were the reasons that contributed? What were the circumstances that led towards this change, this shift from French to English during this particular century? I think by now you can make certain guesses, if not wise, at least wild. I am also sure, and I assume that you know certain things about the socio-political situations of those times. Now, because of the rise of the middle class, the language of this middle class, English, also had a rise. Now, because of industrialization and, promotion of the urban life as compared to the rural life, these changes were coming in the society. The political system was also being revamped. The aristocracy, the traditional aristocracy, was giving way to the rule of, the masses through those small towns. Hundreds of towns in England had their independence, had their own ways of earning money, getting taxes, and legalizing their own systems. In all this situation, where masses were, they were gradually, climbing up the ladder, along with them was this language of the masses that was going gradually up. To understand exactly what was happening, we can compare the situation with the current situation. Think about the example of Pakistan. In the Pakistani system, what happens to English and what happens to Urdu cannot be 100% compared with this situation, but there are certain factors that are comparable. The prestige that was attached to French language before this particular time can be equated with the prestige that is attached to English in our society. The status of English language that is in relation to the educational system that we have can be identified with all the characteristics of the use of French in the school systems of those times. We can also compare, how certain efforts are made in the history of Pakistan at various time points to give Urdu, in relation to English, to give Urdu a position that is, if not equal or superior, at least closer to it. And in this effort, a lot of educational policies have been made at different times where, Urdu has been brought gradually, at certain time points as the language of education in Pakistan. I hope this example would help you understand how French and English were going side by side in the 14th century, but there was a gradual shift from French language to English in the educational system of England.